Okay, it's recording now. It's recording now. So, hi everyone. My name is Sereena Noor. For those who don't know me, I'm a meditation and wellbeing practitioner. I regularly talk about how to transform your cognition to create a better lifestyle for yourself, to get yourself out of stress patterns and learn how to control how you can keep yourself in a higher vibration. I do that through events, one-to-one workshops, and that's what I do generally anyway, but I've taken it up as a profession. Now, this actual blab is inspired by myself being single and a lot of other people being single. And it baffles me because I'm the type of person who likes to do a lot of work on myself. You know, I believe if something's showing up kind of negative in my life, then somewhere inside of me, I'm attracting it. And I'm trying to check it as much as possible. And I've come against the stumbling block. I'm okay with having conversations with people about being single, but I'm seeing that there's a block. And it's not just me that has this block. So that's what inspired me. I wanted to speak to other people on a platform so we could get down to the nitty-gritty and find out what's going on. A lot of people are saying things like, you're too strong. They're intimidated by, I guess, what they see as my success, even though I don't feel like I'm personally successful as yet. And a lot of other women are saying similar things when it comes to men, and men are saying things of the same contrast. So I want to look at how we can kind of bridge the gap and come to some kind of understanding so we can get ourselves in a place where we're more, I don't know, dateable. What's the word? I don't know what the word is, but basically that's the blab. So if you guys introduce yourself first and then we'll get into it. So Alicia, you go first.
I'm Alicia. I'm a designer. Well, that's unrelated. I've had experience in relationships. My longest relationship was 12 years. So I wouldn't say it's a non-dateable thing, because if you're going by time, clearly I am dateable. Hello?
Hold on, I think my phone beeped. I'm switching my phone off because it's interfering with the Wi-Fi. Say that again, sorry.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Yeah, I was saying I'm Alicia. My longest relationship was 12 years. And I've had relationships since. And it has been my choice to leave the other relationships. So in terms of using the choice of words of people who are single, you know, could be undateable, I wouldn't agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what to say at the moment.
She's a fashion designer. A lot of Americans purchase her clothes. Her company is called Afro Babies. We do mainly African wear, and she's one of my best friends. And she is very opinionated and very confident. But we'll just let her warm up. Yeah. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do?
Talking to me?
Yes, honey. Yes.
All right. So my name is Essex J, and basically I started this project of transparency. So I do what we call vlogs. So a lot of people call me a vlogger, but I am a vlogger of men. When I say men, just the real behind the scenes attitude, opinion, voices, and things that women don't hear. I put that in the forefront for women to hear, not so much as to bash men or to expose men, but more so to let women understand and know that not everything is about them, that it's not all the mistakes that they're making, it's not all the insecurities that they have, but more so it's the things that the men necessarily are going through and battling within themselves that's causing these things to make a woman feel a certain way or to think a certain way. So I guess to sum it all up, I'm just a vlogger of emotions. That's what people call me, a vlogger of emotions.
Okay. Oh, that's so nice. That's cool. Right. So we'll just ask the question, why are we still single? I'm 35 years old. I have 2 children. I'm ambitious. I'm clean. I can cook, etc., etc., etc. But for some reason, it's a block.
Clean. I love it. Oh gosh, yeah. Dirty people find partners too.
Very true. Very true.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there. I've had to write my own list of, my good points and what I think are my bad points or whatever, and it's still not working for me personally. So I just would like to, thank you, Essex, for coming on basically as well, because you didn't have to.
You're welcome.
He's looking after your son today, aren't you? And he's taken time out to chill with us and have a little quick conversation with him. I think that's a really deep gratitude for that. So, yeah, why do you think that a lot of people are still single, especially in the Black community?
My opinion, or you asking Alicia?
You go ahead, sir.
Okay.
I'll let you go first.
All right.
As the man of the crew.
He's warming up.
All right, thank you.
He's just warming up.
Appreciate it. So I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I think a lot of us were single because we haven't accepted our own truth. That's the first portion of it. The second portion of it is I believe that a bit of us, or all of us, has a large amount of selfishness that we haven't accepted yet. What I mean by that is that we want a person the way that we want a person. We want love the way that we want love, the way that we were conditioned and programmed to believe that love is. We all have this ideal or this concept of a good man or a good woman, when there is no such thing, in my opinion. There's no such thing as a good woman. It's who's good for you. It's no such thing as a good man. It's who's good for you. So when you sit back and you look at all of the conditioning mentally, when you sit back and you look at all the stereotypes, when you sit back and you look at all the do's and don'ts to dating, half of them are really fictitious. They're all fake. They're completely irrelevant to the fact of you finding love. But we basically have judged and we have built our whole entire knowing of how to find love, how to find a relationship, how to date, off all of these morals that aren't even real morals, out of all of these ideas of dating that aren't even real ideas of dating. And that's, in my opinion, that's the reason why we suffer the way that we suffer. I always tell people, when you meet me, forget everything that you have ever learned about a man and relearn me. And so many people cannot do that, but that's what you have to do with each person. You have to be strong enough to forget what you've been through and prepare yourself to embrace what you're about to go through with this person. I've said this several times too. We have forgotten how to fall in love. We don't know how to fall in love anymore. We don't know how to date anymore because now we do everything based off of stipulations. Well, I'm only love you if you were at this point in life, or I'm only going to allow myself to love a person if they do this much for me, versus just sincerely falling in love with an individual for who they are.
Yeah. So the thing is, you used the key thing and you said, forget what's happened to you. How do you think that is a real thing that people can do? You can just kind of forget. So for somebody who's experienced the extreme of being abused and experienced domestic violence, how do you just forget what's happened to you and not bring that into your next relationship?
Well, the first thing,
the
first thing is that you have to ask yourself, are you really prepared to date? I mean, like if I come from an abusive relationship and I'm still hurting, but I want love, there's that selfishness again. I want love, but I also have to acknowledge that I'm still hurting. So I'm not saying that because you come from an abusive relationship or because you come from something that was negative that you don't deserve love, but you really should know when is the right time. And a lot of people don't wait for the right time. You have a lot of people who are just rushing and who are just pushing the issue because they don't want to be alone, but you have to be okay with loving yourself, So it's not that you will ever forget, because once you implant something mentally in a person, it will forever be there. I mean, they may not remember it for a year or two, but 3 years later, they could be walking and that thought will, surface, and it's going to forever be a part of them. So it's, when I say forget, I don't necessarily mean to erase your memory, but I mean to be happy and to be strong enough, to be loving enough to say, okay, that's what I went through. Now it's time to wipe off the chalkboard, because we didn't forget the lesson prior. But just because the teacher wipes off the chalkboard with the eraser doesn't mean that we've forgotten everything that we've learned before. But it is time to start over and to put a new lesson on the board. It is time to learn something new, to embrace something new, to figure a new path out. So when you embrace each new individual woman or man based off of who you are, your preference, your sexuality, race, religion, or whatever, then embrace that as a new lesson versus as a continuous lesson. And that's the difference. A lot of women approach me as a continuous thing. When I'm nothing, when I'm nothing like the man before, don't add me onto the wrongs and the lies and the things that he's done. Start over fresh with me, learn me, figure me out, and here we go again. Selfishness, right? We want sex, we want cuddles, we want company, we want dates, we want vacations. So we rush the learning and the patience part, right? People get mad. Like I've had women get mad at me. Well, you just don't want to. And it's not that I don't want to. It's just that it's patience. Just let's be cool. Let's just be friends. Let's just relax and let things evolve. In due time, if it was meant for me and you to connect, love, we'll connect when it's time for us to connect. But selfishness, we want things to connect on our time versus the time that the universe truthfully will allow it to happen, you know? So to me, that's why we go through the things that we go through. And again, it's not forgetting, it's being strong enough and being selfless enough to understand that this is a new woman and that this is a new man. Let's start a new adventure, you know? And I think that that's the challenge for people.
Yeah, it's true, because my thing is this: when I enter any relationship, whether it's with a friend or whatever, any kind of thing that happens between me and a man, I believe that I've attracted a side of myself. So first and foremost, I will then go with the lessons and work out what side of myself I've attracted. So I'll even know whether I'm going to end up in a relationship and how far that relationship's going to go. Like recently, I became reacquainted with my first boyfriend, and the connection was just it was phenomenal. We're kind of all over each other, and I had to kind of step back and think to myself, okay, what is it that I've attracted here? Have I got unfinished business here, or is this really going somewhere? So rather than me putting on him the expectations of a relationship, which I try not to do anyway, I was already aware that this is a karmic relationship where closure needs to be made for both of us, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Yeah. And when I stepped back, I seen that I attracted him from a space that he has mother issues and I have father issues. So because he's got mother issues, he's amplified his paternal side, and I wanted to feed into that, and that was where the attraction was. And I amplified my mother issue, my maternal side, because of my lack of paternal having a paternal, I don't know who my father is, basically. That's the long short of it. So we was able to part knowing that that's what the attraction was, and still be friends with each other, rather than use that energy to force our way into some kind of relationship. So for me, the reason why I'm saying that is because I don't forget what's happened in my past relationships or whatever. I actually approach my new relationships knowing that I've attracted a side of myself and I need to take care of myself and take care of that person. However, the issue comes when people don't know how to work on themselves and they don't have the same kind of approach. So they don't believe that they've attracted me from a certain space. So they'll just automatically try and come with that controversial relationship, that normal kind of way of approaching people, and they'll just try and sex me, try and take me on dates, try and take me, do whatever you do normally in relationships. And I'm like, no, we need to kick back, just have general conversation and just observe each other and see what space we've attracted each other from, so then we can move forward if it's meant to be that. Because I feel like sometimes when you meet people, you're not always gonna, it's not always a relationship because you have that attraction to the person. Like you said, sometimes it's a lesson. And if we stand back and just observe that for a second, then you'll know how to move it forward rather than forgetting what you're doing. There might be some learning from the past relationship where you're going to have to act different. So you might attract somebody who is an abuser, rather than being attracted to the fact that you have an addiction to being abused and not realizing it yet because the person hasn't abused you. You'll be able to just make that observation, if that makes sense. Does this make sense what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
As much as you hold on, you don't hold on to the hurt from a previous relationship. You know, you still would look out for the signs. You use it as a reference. So if you start to see the signs, say you've had dealt with a crazy person, as you said, like an abuser or something. Yeah. If you start to see patterns in the behavior that's similar to that I've said crazy, you're going to use that as a reference. Okay, you're not going to hold it to the person. You're still going to give them a chance, give them the benefit of the doubt, but you're still mindful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So basically, so if you was to approach the situation, you'd look, you start to notice certain things. You can say, you can take responsibility for the fact that you attract abusive relationships or you attract narcissist relationships. So you'd look out for it and then act differently in that situation so that it's complete. Do you understand what I mean? So for me, it's not necessarily about forgetting what's happened. It's a case of understanding your own energy and what it is that you fundamentally attract, and then moving forward with that and having that knowledge of self.
I think a problem that we have also is, as you said, one of you mentioned earlier, is a lot of people don't work on self. I think that's a key thing. You need to know yourself. You need to know what you like, what you don't like, what resonates with you, what you're comfortable with. A lot of people have no clue about that because, as you said, sir, people just jump from relationship to relationship and then they're wondering why they're encountering the same problems. Because you're not taking the time to breathe and know thyself, you know, because that also helps with the filtering process. Because if you know yourself, you know what works with you and works for you. You encounter somebody that you know immediately, if this person's not making it, it's just not going to work. You're saving a lot of time because sometimes it can be so tedious. And a lot of times wasted, and nobody's got time to be wasting, seriously. And it's unfortunate that we have to encounter so many time wasters, but when you encounter time wasters, a lot of the time it's people that don't know themselves. So it's just like, brethren, take time to learn yourself before you start approaching people's daughters, or vice versa, before you start going approaching people's sons. Know yourself. Sorry, Sereena, carry on.
It's okay. What was you going to say, Epic?
So I think that what Alicia said is very true. One of the key things that we have to understand psychologically with the world right now, and I will always refer to this, right? Society has made it to where, and I don't blame society for everything, but this is, for me, factual, to where a lot of people live a lie. You know, and Sereena, with me, you had a conversation the other day. I was basically saying that there's a lot of women who cannot be who they really are in society because they're afraid of judgment. They fear the lashback, right? So when you live a lie, you can't be the woman. You can't be the wild eccentric. You can't be the goofball. You can't be the whoever you are because you're afraid of family judgment. You're afraid of societal judgment. You're afraid of people looking at you a certain way. You're afraid of being made fun of. Like, you know, I know some nerds. I know some really straight up nerds. I call myself a nerd. I'm a tech. You know, that's what we do. And what I have tried to do in my project is, like prime example, my fitness group is called Nerds Lifting, because I want people to feel good about being a nerd, but be a sexy nerd, be a fit nerd, be a funny nerd. You know, don't think that being a nerd is being in this little rock or sitting on the table by yourself eating lunch alone. No, be a extremely beautiful, sexy, gorgeous nerd, but be proud of being who you really are on the inside. And that's a huge issue. A lot of men and women cannot be who they really want to be. They cannot express the things that they truthfully want to express, regardless if they're single or in a relationship. So when we start talking about attraction, right? If I go in the middle of a jungle and I make a gorilla mating call with a gorilla suit on, I'm going to attract gorillas, knowing damn well that I'm a human. But when you have women and men who live lies, who dress up to be the perfect wife, who dresses up to be this businessman, who dresses up to be whomever the society has tried to force them to be versus who they freely, truly want to be, then they tend to attract that. You know, so there's a lot of women who try to be the house mom, but she doesn't want to be. But she attracts the man who is overly aggressive. She attracts the dominant male that clashes with her because, yeah, she was raised to be a house woman, but her true inner self is a very dominant, strong, independent, hardworking woman, you know, but the world has made her feel guilty about wanting to be independent, has made her feel guilty about wanting to be a little bit more aggressive in a relationship because, quote unquote, that's out of character. No, it's not. If that's your heart, that's your soul, that's who you are, then again, you have to find a balance of somebody who can appreciate that this is a strong woman in the home. So I believe that we attract our lies. When we live a lie and we, you know, portray to be of a certain character, we tend to start believing our own lies. We start believing our fake selves. And so we start attracting that type of person. And that's where the issues come in at, you know?
For me, I know that I would love to be looked after by my man. I'd love to be at home, looking after the children and doing all that wifey stuff. However, I wouldn't.
As your friend, I disagree.
No, I'm being for real. I'm not lying, Aisha. I'm not lying. I swear to God. No, I'm being for real. I would love it. Yeah. However, I would still make my own money here and there. Yeah. I would still have my little, whatever it is, like my women's empowerment groups and whatever, but I wouldn't want that to be my main, the main thing that's happening for the household. So everything that I do now, I would do, but I just wouldn't do it so hard if I could find a man who would take up that role. Now, men think that I am this independent woman that wants to just take over the household with my pioneering Sereena Noor project and blah, 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 blah. And it's not nice. I don't understand why I'm judged like that, because realistically, I'd love you to look after me. I want to be looked after. But how come men only see it that way? Like, why? How come men don't listen?
Well,
they don't hear and they don't.
Well, that's the picture that's been painted again, and that's why, again, you know, and not even to talk about my project, but that's why I am, and that's why I do the things the way that I do it. I want to continue to show, and I want the project to expose different levels of men and women that we are not familiar with. As a young boy, I was taught there are two types of women. There's a woman that you cannot bring home, and there's a woman that you can bring home, right? So what that gave me was, and this was a challenge when I was first coming up. Oh, well, if you didn't fit the little, you know, nice pants and, you know, skirt to your knees, then wait a minute, you wasn't the woman that, nah, man, my mom is going to trip if I tell her I'm dating you. She's going to hate you. But the reality of it is that if you're just a little provocative, you got a little wild side and eccentric side, that doesn't make you any less of a woman. That doesn't make you any less of a mother based off of how you overall carry yourself and present yourself. But we were taught something different. So, you know, again, I was expressing this in one of my conversations. How many women in marriages are afraid to even open up sexually to their husbands because they're afraid of the judgment, to where they will no longer be the good wife? They will no longer be the beautiful
Yeah.
woman in the home. They will be looked at more as the slut in the home or the whore in the home. And so they cannot truthfully express themselves. How many women are a little bit more adventurous and daring, a little bit more rugged, who wants to get their hands dirty, who doesn't mind changing the oil because they get a kick out of that, but they are afraid to show that side of themselves because they feel like the man won't look at them as that beautiful woman. Me personally, I vision it completely different. If I come home to my woman, beautiful as hell in Victoria's Secret, that's in the garage, it's kind of a turn on. You know what I mean? But that's me. And so we have to be able to open everyone's mind that there is more than two type of women. So when you see a strong independent businesswoman, we automatically, you know, put this image of dominance on you, like, oh yeah, well she's definitely not the submissive type. But that is that is a condition.
Exactly.
But that's a conditioned mentality. And what a lot of men don't know is that I read an article which is hilarious what the woman said, but it made perfect sense, right? The woman basically said that she's in control at work all day. She runs the kids all day, right? She tells everybody else what to do. She's a boss. She's a CEO. She said, when I come home after telling everybody else what to do all day, it feels good for a man to be in control because I'm in control all day, you know? And so it's not so much as being in control of, well, me telling you what to do and disrespecting you, but it's that sense of she admit to a man because now she doesn't have to do everything. So it feels good to have a counterpartner who's just as strong, that knows when to take over and that knows when to let her lead. You know, that's the issue. We don't have men, not all men, some men, but enough men have not figured that out yet. They don't know how to balance between that.
That's a key point, you know, that is a key point that men have not realised that there's a differentiation when it comes to women. There's different types of women out there. Like you said, it's either the girl next door or the hoe down the street. And they really need to open up their minds to the fact that there's different types of women out there. Mr. Stardon has said that he said, are women ready to accept the new dynamics that we face as women being the breadwinners? Are women ready to accept the new dynamics that we face as women being the breadwinners? Many business-minded women are saying they don't need a man or anything from him. Right. Now that brings me to the next thing. A lot of black men are now avoiding commitment with black women because their new excuse is that we're too masculine. Now, I guess it kind of reflects on the point that you made when you said that with the article, the lady, she's a CEO, she's strong at work and whatever, and she wants to come home. But there's a lot of men out there that don't realize that being a single woman, you have to balance your masculine side and your feminine energy. Like for me, for instance, when I'm doing my business, I can't do that from a feminine angle. I have to do it from a masculine angle. Now, don't get that misconstrued. It doesn't mean that when I don't know when to drop it and when to add it. And you know what? It's that male mentality. I think a lot of women have done a lot of work on themselves, and men really need to do that work on themselves. And like you said, educate themselves with the fact that women are we understand ourselves to a certain level. And I guess it gets to that point where we do develop a level of ignorance, and we'd rather do without the headache, to be honest. We're constantly being expected to address ourselves.
I find that a lot of men who I encounter like the idea of me, in terms of me being a business owner and, you know, traveling a lot, and we can take over the world together thing because they see what I'm doing. But when they're actually in a real dynamic with me, they freak out. They don't know what to do because they think they desire that type of strength. But when they have to deal with it, they a lot melt down. Or it's a case of sometimes strong women, we bring out the man's insecurities in terms of how he may be feeling about himself. Like some dream of being with boss lady, whatever. Or if they're not a boss themselves and they still work for somebody, it brings out some level of crazy insecurity. I've found, I can speak from my own experiences, or I think it makes them question a lot about their own life. Oh, a new person. Hello.
Hey.
Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Hey, how are you doing, brother?
Hey, good, brother. Go ahead.
Hey,
Go ahead.
Listen, balance is here now.
So yeah, and it's like, yeah, then the behavior changes, and I've seen it. I've seen the behavior change on different levels as well. Some will try to then kind of bring you down because you're on a high level, or you get a lot of respect from just other people that they probably don't feel like they get themselves. Some then try and impart some level of crazy control or try and bring you down, or some just back out, like they're just, I don't know, there's some mad self-esteem start getting highlighted. So yeah, I find that strange. I'd love a male account of that, because yeah, I find that really strange. It's like they like the idea of this boss lady, and I'm like
there's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, listen, great topic, Sereena. Hello, Alicia. Hey, big up yourself, Essex, man. You know what I'm saying? You're talking. I'm glad that a real brother is on here and we're not being misled by no crazy talk, you know? So that's really, really cool. Like right now, I've been in the military for a little while and I've started my own business and stuff. But what happened was something happened. And so now I'm the stay-at-home dad. And I'm still working on my second business and trying to get things back started. But she is the breadwinner. And she is a bossy lady, let me tell you. You know what I'm saying? And of course, she has to do it, like you said, from a masculine side, from a side with, I'm not saying that feminism is weak, because there's a lot of strength in a woman saying something a feminine way. You know, you're going to do it. Trust me, you know, but there's a lot of strength in that. But what happens is a lot of times we're in this society where a lot of brothers feel wanting. You know, a lot of brothers are being put down so much. You know, and I'm not saying nothing is wrong, that something is wrong with what Jaden Smith is doing, but he is a female. He's the model. He's a model for a female magazine. You know, yeah. So a lot of times we're emasculated in a way that our manhood just, no matter what you are as a black man, a lot of times you feel wanting. You know, I'm not going to lie to you. Is a lot of times earlier on being a parent, this is child number 4. And a lot of times being a parent, I'm sitting back and I'm like, man, I'm doing this all wrong. You know, I'm going about this all wrong. I'm about to jack this up. I just want to run away, you know, and it's not, it's just that fear of messing up, you know, but I know what it is to not have the dad at home. I know what it is to not have that. And I think right now with everything that you're saying, you're on point. And I think starting with everybody that's in this group, you know, if we could kind of take the action of making sure that our brothers know that they're needed, that they're necessary, that they're men, you know, and it's not what you make in. I mean, I'll be preaching to the choir if I tell y'all all of that, but we just got to really do a better job of saying, hey, listen, you don't need to be a baller to be cool. Just like you're saying, the being a techie, being a nerd, hey, man, it's on and popping. You know, it's about finding a person that's good for you, like you said. And but we gotta do a better job of bigging our men up and just helping them along the way, because I think they have lost themselves. They don't have to be a thug. They don't have to be a president, because nothing we're doing right now is good enough. We're not seeing Bill Cosby anymore. We're not seeing Mr. Huxtable. We're not seeing that role model. So we really gotta try and big them up. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, at the same time,
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Janae. How do you spell that?
Junior. You gotta say it like an island person. You got Junior that thing up. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I know you got this. I know you got it.
Congratulations on your 4 babies. Congratulations on your babies. And thank you for looking after our children while our wife can go to work. You know, thank you for
big ups.
just being normal. Now sometimes I can get the job you can't, and sometimes you can get the job and I can't, and it's good to fluctuate in that way rather than judging each other and having all ego and be like, well, I can't do that because I'm a man. No, it doesn't take anything away from your masculinity. Sometimes the family has to, things have to, you know, maybe we'll grow up, the children will grow up and end up looking after you guys for a bit or whatever. But also when he was talking about the role models and things like that, one thing I've done as a mother, my son is 13 years old, and I realized that 80% of our experience is visual. So if you look at that in terms of where we live, well, I live in a very a white society in England. White people are the majority. And if I apply that to my son, I see that he doesn't see himself within the hierarchy or within the system that we live in. So as a parent, I decided to take him to Africa so that he can see himself, because I believe that it's important. Now that's psychology, that's a fact, that 80% of your experience is visual. Now, if we know that as parents, it's our duty to make sure that our children can see themselves enough to know who they are. Yes. Now, my son doesn't even realize what I was doing. Let me just let Essex file back in the call. Sorry, hold on one second. Now, my son probably doesn't even realize what I was doing, but subconsciously, what I was doing consciously is putting into his subconscious so that he can see himself in all stages. He can see himself as the cleaner. He can see himself selling water on the roadside. He can see himself as the prime minister, the president. He can see himself as a taxi driver, because I feel it's important. Now, as a big man, if you adapt that mentality, you will know that to heal yourself or to make yourself feel secure as a man, you need to go to Africa and places like that where it's predominantly made up of people like you, so you can see yourself. These things are important. These retreats are important. These journeys are important. It's okay us even knowing it, but we have to act on it. And that's all I just wanted to say on that bit there.
I think people need to carry on, Essex. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Alicia, go ahead. I'm listening. I'll go after you.
No, I was going to say I agree with Sereena in terms of going home to the motherland, because that's something that I sing about all the time, and I'm not just wherever you come from, because I make a strong effort to make sure I get back to the Caribbean, you know, annually, and now I've started going to Africa often as well, and I see the difference it makes in terms of me, spiritually, energetically, and all the rest of it. And I feel that all of us as people, we need to do that, because there's something really powerful about when you go home, especially in terms of self-esteem. It's such a beautiful thing when you're in a place and everybody looks like you. Some of the issues that we experience, especially living here in England, and I'm sure it's the same in the USA, there's so many psychological madness that you're having to deal with daily that you don't even realize you're dealing with daily, that when you go back to the Caribbean or you go to Africa, them things is less important. You're not dealing with that anymore. And for me, every time I go to one of them homes, I'll just come back such a better person. But at the same time, me doing that is now starting to really distance me from our men over here in terms of world experience, how I see the world, and so many different things. So it's now actually starting to put a huge gap in terms of communication and how I see things. So it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Is it pertinent? That we all go, make an effort to go, keep in touch, because being in this society, it really is washing us out culturally. And it's really, traditionally is really, you know, when I was talking about earlier in terms of knowing yourself, that's really dragging us away from knowing ourselves, because we're here not impersonating. Oh, what's the word I'm going for?
Not impersonating.
Say again.
Learning to be something that we don't necessarily
Westernized.
We're just westernized, basically. And that's how we're losing ourselves.
Very true.
You know? Yeah.
Very true.
That's something.
And that's why
Very
it's
true.
not a natural state. It's not a natural state.
Yeah, you're not in a we're not in our natural environment, and that's becoming a problem for me now, actually. You know, because I'm getting a bit more, a lot more in tune. So then I'm seeing the kind of things that I'm looking for even more in a partner. And sorry to take everybody off track, one. Thing that's really important to me is like manners and chivalry. I'm very old school. I grew up with my grandparents, Jamaican grandparents, so deep that it's a case of don't ring my phone after 9 o'clock. Don't. I have a mobile phone, don't ring my phone. Unless you are somebody, I give you permission to ring thy phone, do not do it. I'm still on that level of life. And to find men who are still on that level is getting very slim. And the more I go back to the Caribbean and keep getting topped up with Caribbean spirit, and the more I keep going to Africa and seeing what's going on there in terms of how the men treat the women, the more I'm sitting here in England like, you know what I mean? Like, it's getting lost, it's getting washed out, it's not happening, and it's drawing me more, you know, what I need, and what we see you can achieve, you can get, is not happening here. So yeah, and it's got so bad, it's got me to a space where I'm packing up and moving. I'm like, I don't need to be in England anymore, I'm out. That's how deep it's got. So yeah, the knowing thyself, there's a lot of effort that we need to be doing. It goes deeper than just reading books. It goes deeper than just going on YouTube. You need to get up and go somewhere, get on a plane, fly somewhere, and go and learn about yourself, learn about your people, learn about your heritage, your culture. These things contribute. Our culture is more than just food and dancing. You know what I mean? And it's got more and more people seem to think that our culture is food and dancing. No, people, we run deeper than that, but there's a lot of people just don't know themselves and how deep we are as a people. And that's widening the gap in terms of communication and understanding.
You know, you brought up some good things. It's a lot of truth that's not being told. For instance, you know, you learn about, in America, you learn about the first president, which is George Washington. But then if you do the research under the Articles of Confederation, before we was actually united, while we were still America, was actually the person that in charge that actually appointed George Washington was John Hanson, which is a black man who also is on the $2 bill. I remember going into combat, and I'm an air crew, I'm an aviator. So it's 9 of us from the Virgin Islands, and we're going to Iraq. This is 2012. And I remember the plane landing in Rhode Island, but we stopped at Tuskegee first. You know, we was like, man, let's put this on the flight plan. Let's go to Tuskegee. We want to do what they did and feel that feel. We landed in Tuskegee. It was great. It was awesome to see that and to see that history as an aviator. So we land in Rhode Island, and these guys, these Caucasian Americans, these white boys walked up to the plane and they said, so who flew the plane? 2012, and it's 9 of us. We're all aviators. We landed our plane, and they said, who flew the plane? And we're all military. Okay. Now, racism is a lot better in the military, and it's just because you take care of the person to your right or to your left. You start learning that the only color that matters is green if you want to make it back home. But there's a lot of you think about Ethiopia and Emperor Haile Selassie, and how Italy invaded Ethiopia, and how Italy still has all those richness, all the goals and everything that they stole from there, which has made Italy such a powerhouse that it is right now. You know, we don't see that. The only thing that made me go to college ever was the football field. Okay, I live in the Virgin Islands. I grew up in the Virgin Islands, and one day I went to America and I saw the football field. And it was something about going to that game. And it was just the best thing in the world. And I said, you know what? This is what I want to do. So from the first time I walked on that football field and experienced that, my life changed. I actually went to college because of that ball. You know what I'm saying? So a lot changes when you expose people to it. Like Sereena said, taking her son there, or like you said, Alicia, going back to the Caribbean, expose yourself to these things, know the truth in who you are, know what you are actually, what you came from. And once you start to recognize your pedigree, you start to erase a lot of limits. You start to erase a lot of boundaries because you see so many people that were ahead, you know? So, yeah.
So I'm going to go back because there was a whole lot that was said. But so one of the first, well, I'm going to go back to a couple of things that Alicia said and Junior said, right? So one of the first things that was said was that the benefits of it, and I always say this, that people love the benefits of our love, but they're not really ready for the full exposure of our love. Or better yet, they love the benefits of a relationship. They love the benefits of particularly where you are at, right? So like, I'm going to use myself, for example. There are a lot of people who love the benefits of me because I am a little bit more transparent. I am a lot more loving, or I do expose myself a little bit more than what the average male may perceive to expose themselves to, right? So some women, they really adore that and they love that. I'm very hardworking. I'm a single father. You know, I do what I can do best. So of course that looks like all of the perfect things that a man or that a woman would necessarily go after in each other, right? Hardworking woman, hardworking man. This is definitely what I want, right? And so when they actually get a hold of you and they see that you have imperfections, they see that there are moments to where you cry. They see that there are moments to where you stress, and they actually have to put in effort now versus just receiving the benefits of your love, receiving the benefits of your thoughtfulness, right? Like I use Junior, for example. He loves his wife. He loves his woman, right? So a lot of women is going to take him and say, okay, ex-football player, good-looking young brother, right? Got an education, businessman. So they love the benefits of him and what he can do for them. But when he needs them, or when you, Sister Alicia, when you need a man to step in and be more than just a benefactor, when you need them to be a more companion and a partner, and then when you need them to be the supporter of when you are falling down, that's when everybody runs, right? That's when people start running, right? But they love the benefits of us, but then they start running. So then they get a little bit on what Junior said, you know, the idealistic image of a man, what we're supposed to be. And Sereena, you mentioned this too, the janitors, or, you know, whoever, whatever your job is, regardless if you're a 6 figures degree or if you're just a normal working man. I always say this, and I've said this on my post quite a few times, that, and it's funny that you guys mentioned westernized, because I'm in the US, and I always tell a lot of women in the US, your mothers and grandmothers created a monster that's killing you now. And what I mean by that is that there are so many women that was raised to date a good man. And when you sit back, and because I take a look at all of these life coaches and relationship therapists, and I'm not even knocking him because he's in town. I live in Las Vegas, and Steve Harvey, they're here right now. But even when you take a look at all of the movies that Steve Harvey have produced and put out, and even all of the great movies that Tyler Perry have put out, what is the one thing you notice about the image of a good man? He's always driving a Cadillac. He always has an office job. They always go back to a suburb home. Everything is picture perfect. So the idealistic imagery of a man that's been programmed in so many women and young, beautiful girls' minds is that, girl, if he's at the bus stop, I don't want to talk to him. Why? He ain't got what I got. So then they automatically disqualify you. And they go after the lawyers, they go after the doctors, they go after the quote unquote image of a good man versus really determining if this is a good man or not. So even what Junior said about women being the breadwinners, right? In my opinion, the thought process that we were built on to even feel that way is absolutely absurd, because in today's society, especially in our times, it has taken away from what our original roots were. Right? So we cannot base it off of who's more masculine. It's all about who has the greater opportunity at the time. If me and you are balanced in energy, right? We blend well together. We have a great relationship. This is where you have to really truthfully open your mind, right? if my woman is a better CEO than I am, why am I going to stop her from being a CEO and being successful and damaging what our home can have? It's not that I want to just be lazy and sit on my butt in the house, but it's all about who's better at what position, because society didn't give me, and this is just me and my example, right? If you guys really know anything about me, and I hope this don't disturb anybody, but I come from what we call the mud, right? I was raised in the projects, the shotgun houses. I remember my grandmother, them taking us in the woods and digging holes in the ground and drilling a hole out of the bottom of our little porta potties that they have in Walmart. I remember her knocking a hole in the bottom of that and sending it over a big hole in the ground. And that used to be our bathroom. I come from nothing. My father was a notorious dope boy. My brother and them, they're in federal prison. I come from a hard background, but that does not make me any less of a man than your CEO, because your CEO may never love you the way that I can love you. Yeah. He may never have the passion for you and for this family. He may not ever truthfully respect you as a woman the way that I will respect you. But here we go again, because of all of the ladies now, well, not all of them, but a majority of women was raised to look for these imageries and to disclose the men who may not be as fortunate in education or may not be as fortunate in their choices because of their backgrounds and the things that they've come from, right? Now that you see that these men aren't necessarily everything that you've ever wanted them to be, now you're looking for the good men, but you can't find the good men. Do you know why? Because all the good men that you have always made feel like they were less of a man because they didn't have anything, now they're putting on an image of, I have to have a nice car. So they're working 2 jobs now. Now they're not at home, right? They're trying to dress up, and half of them's going broke to try to look the part versus just actually being the part, because there's so many of us that feels like, and I grew up in this, right? And I tell people this all the time, up until maybe a few years ago, even at my age, I'm 33, turning 34 next month, I've always felt like I could never date a woman who is a businesswoman because of my background. I can never be with the nurse. I can never be with the lawyer. Why would they ever want to talk to me? Look at where I come from. Look at the things that I've been through in life. Why would you ever want to be with me? But that's because of the ideology that was programmed into me as a young man, listening to women tell their daughters, listening to my mom, tell my sisters that if he's on the bus, girl, there's no need for you to talk to him. And I sit back and I tell people, I caught the bus for 2 years. If you live in New York, right? If you live in New York, most businessmen that are 6 figures catch the trolley. They catch the train or they catch a cab. They don't even have a car because it's not worth it. Yeah. But then when you come to a small city or you come to Vegas, you come on the West Coast because he doesn't have a car, you don't want to talk to him. So I think that society has programmed the wrong imagery of love, the wrong imagery of family. We've programmed the wrong ideals of what it takes to really balance and to be with each other. We've made a man feel less of a man because maybe he's at home with the babies. But right now, if I could screenshot that image of Junior and his baby right now, I would send that to 100 different men. There's never not an excuse. This is a brother who's working from at home, who's loving his kids, who's still a husband, who's still successful. So tell me, are you more of a man by stepping out there and allowing your family to struggle to basically appease society who doesn't give a damn about you? Or are you more of a man to be strong enough to say, okay, babe, you are better in this option. Go for it. And I'm going to handle home the best way that I know how to handle home. And together we make a stronger whole versus the family that's trying to be the image of a home, right? So we have to be more content with who we are as people in life and love, if that makes sense. You know, we have to leave society behind. I tell people all the time, it's 2 worlds that we live in. It's the world when I step outside of my front door that I have to embrace. Okay, I got to deal with the BS. I got to make the bosses happy and do what I do and run things and get to that point. But when I come in my home, this is our world, right? So we can say what we want to say, do what we want to do. We live, we love how we want to love. We appreciate each other how we want to appreciate it. I don't care what the neighbors think. I don't care what society think. I don't care what the media thinks. Babe, if this is what you want to do, and I know that that's your heart, then follow that. Go with that, right? And I think that's the problem. And I'm gonna say this one last thing. I think the control issue that some men have, not all of us, but a lot of us, comes from lack of being a man. I think that the image of us being masculine And I'm not attacking men, but I'm being true now. The image of us being masculine, what people don't understand is masculinity is not, it's not muscles and how big and how strong we are and how we can push you around.
Masculinity is not manhood.
Yeah.
No, right? That is you truthfully understanding your power and learning how to balance your power with maturity and love. Right? It's power, maturity, and love for me that truthfully defines how your masculinity plays a role in the home. Because here we go again, right? You got some men who are so afraid of losing a woman to where they have to be in control. So some women will never be able to truthfully, again, express themselves, be the women of power that they can be, because they date a man or they're in a situation to where they have a man who is not all the way secure about his manhood. He's not secure about his masculinity. He's not secure about himself. So therefore, he can never let a woman be a real woman. He can never let a woman be of any power, of any real substance. He can only let a woman do what he wants her to do. But again, why? Because he knows where he lacks of. That's the reason why. Because if we're really truthfully confident as partners, right? So if as your man, if I know I'm a good man, I love you, I'm faithful, I'm at home, and I know I got a good relationship, baby, you can go out there and handle your business meetings, have a lunch with your coworkers and do whatever. I'm not tripping. That's what business requires. Enjoy yourself. I see you when you get home. I got the kids. We cooking, right? But you got some men who are like, oh, so you had to go to dinner with him? You had to have lunch with him? And they make a woman feel afraid to truthfully elevate on the level that they can elevate, and vice versa. You got some women who aren't good women who look good, but they know that they're not good, right? Oh yeah, you sexy, but you don't really do the things that a woman should be doing. You don't cater to me like the way you should cater to me. You're not humble the way that you should be humble. So now you fear a normal, old, beautiful, just plain Jane queen taking me, because all the looks, all the plastic surgery, all the Gucci, all the Louis means absolutely nothing, because you know on the inside that you're not wholesome. And that you're not a real woman. So definitely we have to know our truth, and we have to seek truth in other people, and we have to find freedom of true expression. That's what we have to fight for, freedom of true expression of where we really are and who we really are as people.
Made a comment in the comment.
That was great. Thank you.
It was absolutely phenomenal. I was thinking like, oh my God.
What's it say after that?
Thank you.
Conversation done.
That was phenomenal. That's done. I think I've like 1 minute left. What's his name? Mr. Stardom says that women need to learn to speak to men with respect. And this is interesting, because if you do something and someone says something, if you do something negative and someone calls you on it, it's not going to have a good effect. It's not going to make you feel good. It's just not going to make you feel good. So why do you then think that the person is deliberately disrespecting you when you've done something that's made them pull you up about what you've done? It's not that anybody's trying to disrespect you in particular. It's that we're trying to realign things back to what they're meant to be, because everybody messes up. So whatever you did was a mess up. That's cool. We're not judging you for that. However, just to let you know not to do that again, or just to make you aware of it, as women, especially as Black women, we'll assert ourselves and say something, and then we get judged for being disrespectful and talking to you in a particular way. What's that about?
Insecurity.
Well, there we go again with patience, right? So a lot of men on my page, I'm gonna tell you guys this much. When I first started the project, I got death threats. Okay.
Wow.
From around the world, from a lot of men, because I challenged their manhood.
Wow.
But I didn't challenge their manhood because I feel like I'm greater than a man. I challenged their manhood to open their thought process. So when I tell a woman, well, you need to talk to me with respect, right? Where does that thought process come from? It comes from a sense of entitlement. Like that woman owes you respect. When the reality of it is that don't nobody, not even a woman, owes you anything. And I tell that to any brother. Just because you're a man and just because she's a woman doesn't mean that she owes you anything. You have to earn all of that through your actions, through your values, through who you are as a person, right? So I will never have to ask a woman to talk to me for respect, because I feel like my actions demand respect.
Yes.
My loving, my sincerity, my friendliness. I look you in the eye, I shake your hand, I give you a hug. I'm gonna never talk about you or deceive you, because I live what I say, right? And the reality of it is that if a woman disrespects me for absolutely no reason, at that point, there's nothing for us to even continue to talk about. I'm not going to slander her, because, again, this is where we have to ask ourselves about accountability. How many men are going to smack a woman and say, well, talk to me with some respect, and force it, versus ignoring her and pushing her off in her own world to where eventually she gets it? I should be more respectful as a woman to these men who actually respect me. Right? You can't force something on somebody, because with anything in life, once you force it, eventually the pressure builds and it budges back. Eventually, you know? So I think that men and women both come from a sense of entitlement that we shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And that we have to learn how to tame that entitlement and learn how to earn each other's values and energy. You know, I feel like, again, me being who I am, you being who you are as a woman, Sereena and Alicia, and even the brother Junior, his actions, how he carry himself, his demeanor, his personality, his energy. A woman will love him for who he is or respect him for who he is just because of who he is. He never has to demand that. You know, and I feel like once we get to a point of demand, perhaps we are consuming the energy of the wrong people, because we should be around people who truthfully see us and appreciate us for who we are.
It's true. That's it.
We're gonna have to go, guys. It's hot, but it's just after 9:30.
Oh wow.
Thank you. Oh my god. And there's just so much more that we could have talked about as well, stemming off all the things that have been said. I'm not sure if you guys want to do another one. What do you think?
I've still got a lot of things to say and a lot of things to discuss on many levels.
And I'll work more on getting some English guys on the app as well. I found that very difficult. There's a lot of guys in the community in Britain who are doing conscious things. However, when I've approached them, they've said yes and then not ended up coming on, or, you know, whatever. But I'm going to do my best as, you know, as a woman, to shift their space and get them on. I'm not sure, Essex, if you're not busy, and obviously I know you are busy, but if you would like to come back on again next week, we can discuss that. And I just want to say thank you so much, love and light to you guys, and I'm just so honored and grateful that you've shared this platform with me, and, you know, allowed other people to listen in, because it's deep and we all want to know. We all want to know about how to communicate with each other much better in a nice free space.
It's been good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll speak. Leisha and Essex will speak outside of this. What I'm going to do, I'm going to press pause. I'm going to shut it down. And Essex, I'll send this to you immediately as soon as it's collected the data. I'll forward it to you.
Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I appreciate everybody who joined us.
Okay, then. Love and light to you guys.
Love and light. Take care.
All right.
Bye, darling.
Peace, love.
Bye.